place. People sit down at the desk, and even though it might be inappropriate to sit on the desk in classes, we allow it because we had proper information to disseminate, and we allow you to do whatever you want to do as long as you are attentive. And indeed, you are attentive. So congratulations to you for being in class today and for getting all of this information. I want to close by again warning you about COVID. And not only COVID, you would have seen now, for those of you UNC,
If you answer 5 questions correctly, I'm going to send you on an all-expense-paid trip to Trinidad and Tobago. Have you ever heard of Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes.
What do you think about Trinidad and Tobago?
I haven't heard much about Trinidad and Tobago, but I know that I've heard of the name.
Nice, nice, nice. I'm going to show you a video of Trinidad and Tobago.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money never, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. I know what you can even money. Money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. You can keep, you can even money. When you've been a corrupt, in a biz there'll be money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a biz there'll be money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. Now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2-pound note and a guilder piece. A 2-pound note and a guilder piece. A 2-pound note and a guilder piece. This is all the money that me walk for. I said money, neighbor. Money, neighbor, money. Money, neighbor, money.
sporting fans, it's here. Club Twilight is now open. Check us out on Sideline Dam, north side of the public road. All weekend, starting 6 o'clock this evening. 4 Banks beer, $1,000. 5 GT beers, $1,000. Come and enjoy a spanking new and comfortable atmosphere. Popular music and popular DJs. Cutters on fleet. Yes, Club Twilight, your new entertainment zone. Sideline Dam, Buxton North. Come out and have a blast from 6 o'clock this evening. The weekend has started.
Ravens, we taking over!
a true Rasta man, and me Babylon can't change. I'm a true Rasta man, smoking me earth to win me thing. But Babylon is the fire where me a fling. Boy, black like a tar. Black, I'm proud you have to know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, big up every black superstar. Black like a tar. Black and I'm proud you better know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, big up every black superstar. I'll never betray my brother. No. Malcolm X come and teach the masses. Yeah. He said you better know yourself. Be yourself. Never be another one. So oh, could I man come betray? Yeah. I am who I am. Black like a tar. Black and I'm proud you have to know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, big up every black superstar. Black like a tar. I'm black and I'm proud I have to know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, big up every ghetto.
Other banks go out of their way to make redeeming credit card rewards needlessly complicated. But Discover isn't like that. With Discover, you can redeem your rewards.
Black like a tar. Morning again, morning. Now you welcome to the program. Let me tell you something this morning. You see when I lose it on the program in the morning, some people that say lose it, some people that say don't lose it. Others say to block them, others say not to block them. My quarrel usually with folks who come on the program and talk crap is the fact that they allow themselves to be used, abused and misled by the PPP propaganda machinery. Yeah. So sometimes you gotta take your time, you gotta take time out to hurt their feelings. And when you hurt their feelings, then in some instances they come to themselves and they ask themselves, why is this man so aggressive? Why is he hurting my feelings like this? One of them jumped in my inbox yesterday. Oh, right? Shipdad found out at some point in time that I don't keep secrets from viewers. I tell it as it is. One of them jumped in my inbox yesterday to WhatsApp me and ask me why I am so aggressive. Why I just abuse out people like that. Like I want to share yes men on my program. I took my time with him. And I sent him to do his research. And he did his research. And he returned like a good student. And he said, Mr. Amsterdam, I learned so much. I didn't know of all of this. I know that I've learned. I owe you and your viewers an apology. I ain't gonna call his name because I don't know if you would like me to out him like that. But because sometimes he gets him paid to do what he has been doing, you know. And so quietly he is repentant. But then he still got to earn his bread. So I'm not going to out him just yet. But I'm happy that he went and he did his research. And that is what I encourage a lot of you to do. Don't listen to what people say only. Go do your independent research. And so when you speak, you know you're speaking from a position of knowledge. You're not just parroting something that one of the most corrupt beings in this country says. Right? You're not just parroting Bart Jagdio or Anil Nandlal or the fat guy. You're not just parroting them. You speak from a position of knowledge. And you will be respected for that. I always say to you, you can fact check me when I talk, you know. When I'm on this program, you can fact check me. I'm human, I will err sometimes. But I'm willing to put my head on a block. You're going to find me wanting too steady, you know. I understand BASCOM is back at work. DION BASCOM. And the fear is that there is no protection for him while he's at work. You know my belief is? that's the right place for him. I would be happy if they put him on desk duty. Because once he's on desk duty, then let somebody kill him in the custody of the police. And see if it makes sense. While he's on desk duty, he doesn't have to go in harm's way. He's protected. That's my belief. I'm entitled to that. I don't know how you see it. But I think that is where he should be on desk duty. So they don't send him out. And he should be smart enough not to want to go out on any patrol or anything. Because a stray bullet might get his name. But once he is in the office of the police, his place of work, it's likely that he is safer there than even at home. That's my reasoning. Good. I also received information that suggests that the police will be making moves to charge him tomorrow and place him before the courts. As some people say, hell shall freeze over for Guyanese to allow that to happen. Guyanese are going to be too stupid to allow the police to charge DION BASCOM and put him before the court before this commission of inquiry begins. As a matter of fact, I believe we are already too stupid to hear the fat guy announce that he's going to bring the RSS to investigate, and we have stayed quiet so far. The RSS is a fifth wheel to coach as far as I'm concerned when it comes to these matters. The RSS was brought here to investigate the murder of Isaiah and Joel Henry. And they left frustrated because there was no cooperation. The government didn't want them to find anything. And so the government know who the muck is. They know the muck. And so they're going to bring the book again. They're going to bring the muck again. Monkey know which limb to jump on. And so this monkey government keep jumping on RSS because the RSS ain't got no teeth. And Guyana should be insisting by taking to the streets that the FBI or RCMP or Scotland Yard be invited to lead this investigation. I maintain that. And I also maintain that the likes of Hicken and Caesar and Blanham and other top officers of the Guyana Police Force ought to have been at home already on admin leave. For as long as they remain there, they give the opportunity to tamper with evidence, and that is happening. There's no question about that. It is Wednesday morning anyways. It's almost 7:30. The doctor is in the house. Dr. Hinds, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning to you and your viewers. And thanks for having me again.
I hope you had a good weekend. And I hope I'm not about to spoil your peace. Because I want us to talk about the rising apartheid in Guyana. That conference, that symposium, which was supposed to be happening last weekend, hosted by Coffee 250, and it was subsequently postponed to this weekend, next weekend that is, because of some epistle Anel Nadler wrote in the media. And as I say, the entire PR machinery of the PPP came out to attack persons associated with the proposed conference because of the topic, and had almost everybody pulling in their shells, leading to the rescheduling of this conference. Why the attack on the Coffee 250 for being bold enough to want to discuss the rising apartheid state?
Well, before I answer the question, I don't know what you meant by everybody pulling in their shells. I don't know what you quite mean by that.
Well, let me explain what I mean by that. It is my opinion that come hell or high water, the conference should have stopped its date and it should have been held. But the organizers chose to listen to Anil perhaps and postponed it.
Well, I don't think you listened to, did you read the statement by Coffee 250? Coffee 250 put out a statement.
I listened to Nigger Key at the apology press conference. Anyways, you can educate the public about the statement.
Well, I mean, Coffee 250 put out a statement which was carried in the newspapers. And the conference on the state of the African Guyanese, an annual conference that we've been doing since 2013, is on this coming weekend. And we explained why we pushed the conference to the coming weekend. As you said, the theme of the conference this year is confronting the emerging apartheid regime. And the title touched a nerve in the government and made the government legal advisor and one of its leading members took to the newspaper to make the argument that Guyana is not legally an apartheid state. And that Coffee 250 may be violating the Racial Hostilities Act. This is the legal advisor of the government. It's not a little ordinary person. It's the person representing the state of this country. And Coffee 250, which invited people to participate in the conference, has a duty to protect those people. Hence the postponement, because they are presenters at the conference who are not are Coffee 250 members. They're not Coffee 250 members. Some of them are young people. And so Coffee 250 has a responsibility to protect those citizens. Hence, we agreed to consult with our lawyers on whether the government was attacking the right to free speech, whether we were on solid ground in terms of what we proposed to the conference. Hence, the postponement by a week.
Acknowledged. Now to the meat of the matter. The question is, why the attack? Why do you believe, or what might be the intentions of the PPP to bring out its entire PR machinery to attack this proposed symposium?
Because the symposium hits them where it hurts most. Most. I've been saying that on this program forever. You know you're winning, not only on Victory Day. You know you're winning when your target responds in a vehement way to what you're doing. They're not only brought out the machinery, the other machinery. If that were so, it wouldn't be that bad. They proceeded to attack presenters at the forum. They proceeded to attack IPADG and demanded IPADG provide documents to show that IPADG members not thieving government money, that IPADG who they think are financing this program by Coffee 250. So they went more than just bringing out the PR machine. You see, if you say a government is corrupt, you know, they will be concerned, very concerned. But they know that they're not going to lose a vote. They know that the opposition will cry and then people will go on with their lives. That corruption, while it's an important target, while it's a big sin, that there is a way in which you can wriggle your way around it. They know, the scandal in the police force, including the one that is going to, yes, it's going to dent their credibility. It's going to expose them and so forth. But they know that they can pretend that they have nothing to do with the corruption. But when it comes to racial oppression, when it comes to racial discrimination, they know that they cannot hide anywhere. Because one, it's an international issue. The United Nations didn't grant a decade for the people of African descent because they're joking around. They assumed and they concluded that African people are still the victims of racism around the world. So the international community has accepted that racism is real. And they know in Guyana that the PPP government, which has been practicing racism since 1992, institutional racism, they know now that all eyes are on them. They know that our people, African people, are now racially literate in a way that they weren't before. They know that every day on these programs, we are removing the mask that governments put on when they're practicing racism. They're sensitive to all other issues of which they're vulnerable. I'm not saying they're not sensitive, but the one that they're most sensitive to is the question of race. Because you see, in societies like ours, people respond to three things. They respond to the threat of dispossession, when you're dispossessing them of land and other resources. People respond to those things. Those things, that is one of the causes of ethnic conflict. A second cause of ethnic conflict is the threat or the actuality of disenfranchisement, denying people the right to vote. And finally, people respond to the threat to their honor, their dignity, the dignity of the group. And if you look at Guyana, you will see African Guyanese are being dispossessed every day of the national patrimony. In addition to the fact that the PPP is intent on going to elections with a bad voters list and to manipulate the election. So people are very attuned to that threat of disenfranchisement, a vote. And then finally, Black people have come to the point where our very honor and our very dignity as a people, you know, coming to us with hampers and in a sense making us look like slaves again. The PPP knows that those three things combined is hell for them. You cannot govern a country effectively. You cannot sustain what you're doing in the presence of those three things. And so the scampering around to give people a little handout there and a little handout there is meant really to keep Black people in check. To say to Black people, everything is all right with you all. You all are not being dispossessed or disenfranchised or dishonored. No, everything is all right. And so it is in effect a war between the PPP and those of us who are on this side of the fence exposing what they're doing. They attacked me and they say that I have anointed myself a leader of Buxton and the African Guyanese people. And they're damn right. They want to choose our leaders. It's not accident what they're doing. And one of the weakness on our side is they know that our leaders are afraid to call them out on race. I've been saying over and over on this program and other programs. When we go to talk with race and we talk with folk tongue, the PPP is laughing at the bank. When we say African Guyanese are being oppressed, and then we go on to say, but our Indian people are oppressed too, the PPP loves that. When we say that African Guyanese are oppressed, period, that's when they get antsy. And what Coffee 250 has done, it has taken the charge of racism to another level. Because in the 20th century, the three most extreme forms of racism were apartheid in South Africa, segregation in the United States of America, and Nazism in Germany. And no government wants to be compared with those three. And when we in Coffee 250 decided, look, this thing is apartheid, and we're going to call it like it is, and we're going to stick our neck out there, they realize where the struggle is now being taken to another level. Hence, the response, the extreme response. So, this weekend, nobody, as you said, pull in or whatever. This weekend we scored a big victory. This weekend, African Guyanese and the opposition scored a big victory because Coffee 250 touched the PPP where it didn't want to go. That is what happened this weekend. They keep saying over and over again, things happen. Struggle is an ongoing thing, and you have to be keen to understand when you win. And it's one of the weaknesses of analysis on our side. It's one of the weaknesses of leadership, is that we are not keen enough, so we don't seize the time. There are other reasons, tactical reasons, that Coffee 250 decided to hold off for a week. Our numbers in the conference are going to go up by 50 times People now know who's Coffee 250. People now know that there is a big conference coming up that the PPP don't want. People now know about apartheid Guyana. It's now all over the world. Oh, it's all over the world. One more week of mobilization. When you win, my brother, you have to have your eye on the prize. Because your winning is not just by what you do. It's by how the other side respond to what you do. Let me talk about apartheid, emerging apartheid. It means that the process is going. There is apartheid already. So when Anil talks about the law is not apartheid, he forgets he alone went to law, that he alone went to law school. There is apartheid by law. That's what happened in South Africa. And then there is apartheid by practice. That is, the laws did not say this is an apartheid state. But the practice of the government, the practice of the state is that of apartheid. It's called de facto apartheid. So now Anil is arguing there is no a jure apartheid. Hence there is no apartheid, but we got used to it. Black people send their children to school. And we know how apartheid operates. And we know that there is de facto and de jure. So when he claimed right in the letter, he forgot that black people, whatever happened to us, that black right on we side. So, oh, what a week it has been. Oh, what a week it has been. Some of us knew that that was their soft underbelly. That's why we kept hammering them. 2 weeks ago, I said, I'll torment you. And that is why they are saying everything David Hinds said is race, race, race. David Hinds would like to talk about many other things because he knows about many other things. But he talks about race every day because that is their weak underbelly. And they exposed it this week. What a victory it has been.
What a victory it has been. And well, we did mention the attack on Vincent Alexander and Coffee 250 and the Prodigy. Vincent said he has been the target of Jack Deal for more than a year. Vincent is also one of the serving members of the Guyana Elections Commission. Do you believe there's a nexus?
No, that's not for us to develop nexus. Let them develop their nexus. There are a few of us, they know, the PPP knows, that people like Vincent and Nigel Hughes and David Hinds and Henry Jeffrey, that we have not over the years been afraid to talk about race in an open way. They know that. The Rafidev group have tried to over the years, to engage us to talk about race. Because they understand that when you come to party leaders tend to be very careful about race. Because a party is looking for votes, a party doesn't want to offend anybody, and so forth. But they know that the few of us are not looking for votes. And so we are able to discuss race in an open way. And they tried to shut us up by calling us racist. But that hasn't worked. So they tried to say they will lock us up because people like Rickford and yourself and Mark Benchop and others have begun to talk about race in a more open way. So they notice that we are getting more and more black commentators and black public people to begin to talk about race. Amanza talked about race, and you all see the body slammer. They body slammer. But Amanza belonged to a political party. They have not been able to body slam Vincent, and people like myself and so on. And so therefore, they decided to attack us in other ways, to try to lock us up, to say Vincent thief money, using public money and so on. Those are the ways they're trying to cite, because their intention is that no African Guyanese leader must talk about race and talk about people's oppression. That's their intention. Their intention was to chase people away from the conference. That was their intention.
I read it also as an effort of the PPP to drive a wedge between African Guyanese leaders and the supporters, followers, African Guyanese on the whole, because especially that this we're soon going to be perhaps confronting the matter of elections and a clean voters list, and you need a solid block to really perhaps, let's say, protest and put the PPP in a corner to give the people a new voters list. I see these attacks also, at least I read them to mean that they're trying to put that wedge in between African Guyanese leaders and the communities.
Well, you're right. It's not just on the level of election, at the level of the struggle to remove them from office. You need more unity among our leadership. And you know that if there is unity among our leadership, there is likely to be more unity among our followership. Because our people follow leaders, they follow parties. And if the leaders and the parties are picked apart, then the followers will be picked apart, and you wouldn't have a united struggle. And the more the struggle is united, the more effective it will be. And so they have always tried hard. When they attack me every day and say, oh, WP is dead, and nobody listens to David Hinds, they know damn well that people listen to me. But what they're trying to do is to say David Hinds and Vincent Alexander, they're something is wrong with them. They're extreme. They want violence. They want this. And so to say to black people, oh, those are not the leaders you should follow. They know very well. They don't attack us because they just want to attack us. They attack us because they know the impact that we are likely to have on the followers, right? Because the followers don't have to bother about voting when they listen to us. When they listen to us, we give them information, we give them education, we take them behind what is happening. And so they are deathly afraid of that. Governments worked out what to do with political parties. Because when they look across the aisle, they know that the electoral party wants to get where they are. And insofar as you confine the electoral party to parliament and you confine them to politically correct politics, you're good to go as a government. But there are always what they call outliers, meaning people like us, who are there to push the political party to take more progressive positions. And that is why they fear a Vincent Alexander. They fear a Nigel Hughes, David Hinds, Henry Jeffrey. Because we are, in a sense, in these progressive positions directly to the masses of people. And the masses of people will then push their political party to take progressive positions. For us to get to the point that you were talking about, where we have a united action. Look, they're concerned at that rally at Burnham Court was not the fact that we had a rally. It was the fact that it was a rally that was held by the PPP, the PNC, the AFC, and the WPA. That was their big concern. That is why they send their drones and they listen to all the messages and so on. Because they know that you're going to have 3 different messages at that rally. You're going to have the AFC message, you're going to have the PNC message, and you're going to have a radical WPA message. And drive the daylight of fear in them. So you are quite correct. The wedge, if you can drive a wedge by saying to the PNC, don't worry, the WPA, they don't bring anything to the table. And some PNC people repeat it. The PPP go laugh to the bank. Because what it means is that the viewpoints of Kidaki Amsterdam, and Ogunse, C.Y. Thomas, Desmond Trotman, and David Hinds are kept off the main stage. Because that rally would have been viewed by people all over the world, by embassies. And insofar as you can get the PNC standing there by itself, and the PNC giving its partisan electoral message, you're fine. You don't want the WPA message that we're going to begin to break your backbone here tonight. You don't want to hear that, right? So when you merge the AFC, PNC, and WPA message, and now the Black organizations, led by 1st of August movement and Society for the African Guyanese in Buxton, because we set the train in Buxton on the night of the 31st, and then at our symposium. And now Kofi comes now and said, what we've been saying all the time is apartheid.
But while we are saying apartheid, the PPP and the supporters are saying, what kind of apartheid you are talking about? We got several black ministers of government. We've just given a black man license to open a merchant bank.
Have we not dealt with that on this program and several programs before? Our target is not PPP members. Our target is our people. As you just said, it's our people that are trying to drive a wedge in between. So our message is directed at our people.
But I'm asking because there's some of our people, there's some of our people who are buying into that.
There are always going to be a minority of people. Don't we have Indian Guyanese supporters on the opposition side? So what if there are a handful of black supporters on the PPP side? We're not defined by our 1%. We define ourselves by our 99%. Do you think a couple of black ministers changes that there is an apartheid state? In South Africa during apartheid, there were what you call the settlements, and they set up leaders like Buthelezi and others who were accommodationists to apartheid. That didn't stop the struggle against apartheid. So we should not be defined by the few of us who are enticed by whatever we are enticed by. We define ourselves by our 99%.
Very well. I read yesterday someone making the comment that, listen, while we are talking about apartheid, this young generation has no idea what we're talking about. Would you spare a few minutes to drive home, if I can say, the evidence of apartheid in this country?
No, I won't spend my time. I've been doing that for the last 2 years, Kidaki. To ask me to do that this morning, it's really taking up time that we can take up, we should be taking up to talk about where we are now. We know why it's an apartheid state. The PPP didn't come out swinging if they believe what they're saying, that young people don't know it's apartheid. They know that young people believe, but they know that young people come at issues from their own standpoint of being young. You know, you hear about young and restless, young and revolutionary, young and militant. Well, the PPP believe that black young people are young and stupid. That's all they're trying to say. But they don't understand black people. They don't. It's one of the things about living in these societies, is that we do not take the time to understand our opposite groups. You look at all the Indian Guyanese commentators about that. They're talking as Indian Guyanese who are analyzing the black condition. They are not getting in to the African Guyanese mind. They're not getting in to what makes African Guyanese tick. What a few of them do. GHK Lal, for example, he does. Some of the WPA Indians do, some of the PNC Indians do. They try to understand where black people are coming from. But the vast majority of Indian Guyanese commentators, they are assessing the African condition through their Indian lens. It's like the slave masters who used to assume that the slaves are happy. And used to tell the slaves, why are you all having slave rebellions? Aren't you all happy? You're being fed. You don't have to pay taxes. Aren't you happy? In the 1930s, when the riots took place, the British sent a commission of inquiry down to the Caribbean. And the commission came, visited, and went back and said those people want their freedom. No, if you enslave people for 200 and something years, and you colonize them for another 150 years, common sense should tell you that when those people rise up, they're rising up because they want freedom from bondage. But the fact that you have to send a commission, it means that you really think that these people don't know that they're in bondage. They should be happy. Why the hell are they rising up? That's what PPP is doing. When they say young people have moved on and they're not listening to people like David Hinds and Vincent, what they're saying is that young people are accepting their racial oppression. That's what they're saying. That they're not different from the slave masters. They're not different from the colonials. In order for apartheid and slavery and indentureship and colonialism to work, you have to convince the people that their oppression is in their interest, so that they will not rise up and overthrow. And that's what the PPP is doing. And that is why I'm always insisting that we have to look at what the PPP is doing, and we have to understand what they're doing overtly and what they're doing covertly. And we have to educate our people on how they're being oppressed. And once we do that, then we will have them kicking and screaming as they did this weekend.
Very well. It's 6 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. Unless you have anything else to add to this apartheid discussion.
I thought you had more questions for me.
But,
But
yes, I have more questions, but not necessarily on the apartheid discussion. And that is why I ask if you want to add anything else on the apartheid discussion.
all right, go ahead with your other questions.
Because I'm going to the fiasco in the Guyana police force.
Yes.
Right? Well, all of us have been following it, and we see these accusations upon accusations, allegations upon allegations. And lo and behold, up until now, no police protection has been provided for the whistleblower, as I want to call him. And as if to add insult to injury, I understand he's now back at work. And Ali has recently announced the RSS will be investigating. Your reactions to this matter up to now?
My reaction to this matter is the fact that the police force is trying to maneuver and manipulate, obviously on the direction of the government, is that we are winning. Our police force in Guyana, in my long observation, the police force in Guyana would tell you go to hell. They can't do that now. They can't do that now. There are too many eyes. Our people are literate, more literate about police corruption. There are people like yourself who are prepared to stand up and talk and expose it. They have nowhere to hide. And I keep saying again, I heard you earlier talk about people getting into the streets and so on. I don't have a problem with that, except that I think what is missing, I guess that's what you want me to do, is to talk about the political impact of what's happening. What is our objective vis-a-vis the police force? For them to stop killing black. For them to stop being corrupt. And we have exposed their killing hand. We have exposed their corruption. And they have nowhere to hide. The PPP, the police force, right now under the PPP is weakened. That doesn't mean that they're not going to lash out. They're not going to keep doing what they have always done. But they're now doing it with the knowledge that tomorrow it will be exposed. It will be exposed. And so therefore, like on the question of race, on the question of policing, we have them on the run. We have this issue over here with BASCOM and all of them and so on. You talk to people on the ground who been around police people, and they will tell you, it's no, you know that. That's been going on forever. What is different now is that we have these daily programs, and we have leaders who are prepared to stand up and to bring to the public knowledge what the ordinary man in the street who know anything about the police force, been saying all the time. What 100 people knew, now tens of thousands of people know. The police is on the run. The leadership of the police is on the run. The political nexus between the politicians and the police is being exposed. We have taken this struggle in 2 years to a place that even we ourselves don't recognize sometimes how far we have taken it. I say again and again, you judge where you are in a struggle, not just by your own action, but by how your opponents react to you.
And so given the past invite of the RSS to investigate in the murder of the Henry boys and their colossal failure, and then them being brought back here to deal with these allegations, should we ascribe any seriousness to the government in wanting to get to the bottom of this? Yes, you have to
ascribe seriousness. They would not invite no RSS if people weren't on the streets with the Henry murder. They would not invite RSS now if people were not on top of this story. The problem is not the RSS, as you pointed out. If the RSS come here to Guyana and the PPP gives them what they want, the RSS will do its job. When the RSS came the last time, it wasn't the RSS was the problem. It's that the PPP didn't give the RSS what they needed. That's where the problem is. It's not the RSS is the problem. The fact that you forced them to bring the RSS is a victory. The RSS goes into other Caribbean country and help to move crimes. Because those governments give the RSS the tools to do its work. So the problem is not the RSS, my brother. The problem is the government. That it knows the RSS can come here. It doesn't give the RSS the tools. The RSS goes back home. That's it. They didn't go and bring the FBI or the Scotland Yard. Because what they can do to the RSS, they can't do to the Scotland Yard. So they want to go on record that, look, we brought in an international body. Because that's one of the demands, that the police force cannot be cleansed by itself. And so they go for the body that they can kick around. So the problem is not the RSS. It's the government.
So how do we get the desired result?
My brother, you sometimes ask me these questions. The desired results is already on its way. You've already get part of the desired results by them bringing the RSS. And I just said that they prefer to bring the RSS rather than bring the Scotland Yard or the FBI.
I hear you, as I usually see. I hear you loudly while you're not as loud. I hear you.
Because we know that there's several ways of struggle, Brother Daddy. And I will never, ever give the PPP the advantage of knowing what I will do tomorrow, of knowing what I will say tomorrow, of knowing what my tactic is going to be tomorrow. I will never give them that satisfaction. I will keep them guessing.
Very well.
So that is perhaps one of the little differences we have in terms of how we deal with these issues in public. Just as you are studying them, they are studying you. And I will never give them the satisfaction of knowing what I am proposing to do tomorrow. You know, you really, when you don't have state power, you have to have guerrilla power, and you have to use guerrilla tactics. They didn't know they were waking up, as somebody said in the papers, that the government media houses have failed the PPP because the Coffee 250 thing been out there all the time. And it's only 2 days before the forum that they recognize the danger from their standpoint of the thing. Coffee 250, in a sense, guerrilla them. Guerrilla them. It's only when Floyd Hinds pulled out that the PPP realized, because they feel that we're stupid. And they're looking for we on the road to run lick we up on the head. And while they're looking for you on the road, you gotta be somewhere else. Like in the border, that they yelling. Never let your opponents know what you're doing tomorrow. No option is off the table. The option of the street is on the table. The option of exposing the racist underbelly to the world intellectually is on the table. The option of the court is on the table. Never let your enemy in a struggle like this know where you're going tomorrow.
Appreciate it. And we're talking about struggle. I recognize Jack Dio said recently that despite Norton is saying no new list, no elections, he will turn up when the elections are called.
That is the trap they always have for the PNC. As I said earlier, the ruling party wants to deal with the PNC alone. Remember, they didn't want Norton because they feared that Norton will not play to the old party script. Now that Norton is leader, what they're trying to do is to script Norton and to box him in to the party. Because you see, like I said, the party is not like Coffee 250. The party is looking to get votes. The party is looking to get into government. The party is going to be politically correct. And that's what they want. What they don't want is the party being part of a larger movement. And if Norton or the PNC will call for a clean voters list, and if they don't get it, they will still turn up, well, it is we who have to push them to the point that they will not turn up. That is the role of what they call the outliers. So they understand the limitations of the political party when it comes to guerrilla movement, when it comes to guerrilla struggle. They know that. They know that. As I said, they knew that they could go after Sister Manza and scare the daylight of her. She's new into politics. She's in a political party. And all they want is that never again should she speak about race in such a bold way. They know that. But they know they don't have the same lid on you or Nigel or Vincent or myself. They know that. So that's why they're always, every day they're calling us racist and all those kinds of things, hoping that someday we will get queasy and we will get tired and we will just get out of politics or we'll just stop talking about race and so on and so forth. You know, the PPP is doing nothing. We are doing nothing that the PPP didn't do in 5 years, you know. In 5 years, the PPP got those Indians who voted for the coalition in 2011 and 2015. They got them to go back home to the PPP with a simple message. The coalition government is racist. They are knocking you all off from sugar nut. It's not an economic decision. It's a racial decision. They're doing nothing different from what we are doing. The difference is that they had enough Indian commentators who were supporting that message, that narrative. And our narrative, that what the PPP is doing, is essentially racist. It's confined only to a few of us, because generally black leaders tend, more than Indian leaders, black leaders tend to shy away from race. An Indian leader would talk about the Marxism, he would talk about this, he would talk about that. Dr. Jagan would talk about Marxists, but in the 1950s, he said Indian people are second-class citizens in Guyana. So, on top of his Marxism, he speaks about race. In those days, there's only one of our top leaders used to talk about race, Sidney King. And he was expelled from the PNC for that. There's a difference between how black leaders deal with race and how Indian leaders deal with race. Indian leaders are Marxists, but they don't leave out race from their Marxism. They talk about working class. Not the black working class is stupid to follow the PNC. The Indian working class is sensible to follow in us because we are sensible. That's one of our. So your answer about what Jack Dio said is part of their playbook. And, the PNC supporters have to ensure that Norton and the PNC don't do what Jack Dio is predicting will happen.
So then the struggle has to be on for the cleansing of the list and perhaps the introduction of biometrics.
Struggle has to be multidimensional. Multidimensional. Wherever you get a chance to kick them in there, wherever you do that. Today is the police. This afternoon is apartheid. Tomorrow is corruption. You keep them all the time on their feet. Let them, you see, we cannot make our people believe that unless you have actual boots on the ground, nothing is happening. We cannot let our people believe there is one pathway to victory. You watch the PPP when it was in opposition. It used sugar, it used rice, it used electoral machinery, it used the courts, it used all the PPP when it was in opposition. Those people did not have to put one boot on the ground. Not one boot. And they were able to kick us out of government. Throw us out of government without a boot on the ground. And so it's tactically an error to socialize our people to believe the only time that they should become active is when boots on the ground. And I'm afraid that sometimes we do that. And not recognizing that you can win the struggle or win a big part of the struggle without boots on the ground.
It's now 24 minutes to 24 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. I'll open up the lines if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir.
Good, so the lines are open. You can now call and let's talk with Dr. So long, bye-bye. So long, bye-bye. Morning, Ali, morning. Welcome to another program of the BUXTONIAN Morning Time. It is Thursday. Yes, it is the day before Free Talk Friday. But we could start talking freely this morning because I want to continue that apartheid discussion. But I want, they say every moment is a teachable moment. And so this morning I want us, those of us who grew up during the years of apartheid South Africa and have seen the results of an apartheid state, have seen how black people were made to fight among themselves, and how black people were used to undermine their own struggle, and so on and so forth. We're going to talk about some of that, and we're going to be drawing parallels in this country of ours, because I'm seeing a lot of parallels. But you hear me singing so long bye-bye? I want to say so long bye-bye to Durga Prasad. Durga's supposed to be the name of one of them Indian gods, no? Y'all tell me if I'm miseducated. Durga Prasad. So Durga Prasad come on here and he say he prays early morning. Cuss up and so. Well, by Durga Prasad, I just tell you, you are a goner. I don't make it my duty to block people, but sometimes, you know, if you're not going to exhibit some intellectual sense, some intellectual strength, you might as well be gone, because you're bringing nothing to this discourse. Right? You're not bringing anything to this discourse. And so long, bye-bye. What I say, goodbye to my troubles and goodbye to my trenches. Hola, boy. You gotta go, boy. You gotta go. Goodbye. Go to rid of some bad rubbish. That's what they say. Now back to regular programming. Back to regular programming. How y'all do? Y'all tell me how y'all do. Hope you had a good rest of the day yesterday. Having been enriched with knowledge. And hopefully some of you got some wisdom and understanding. I hope you were empowered yesterday and you went. You faced the oppressors with renewed strength and power. Because it's power to the people. I don't run from the people's power. No dictator. People's power. No dictator. What are we going to talk about this morning? We got a lot to talk about. Don't take it lightly. I see some people taking setup. And I'm a man, I'm a fair man, you know. When I see certain things happening, I usually take my time to get to the bottom of it before I make pronouncements. Right? So let me tell you all that I tried to get to the bottom of a particular story. And so far I got no response. So I'm going to be calling people names publicly. Hey, Dungin, if you're listening to this program, you know the phone number, call me. Gidel, Austin, if you're listening to this program, call me. Because I called for you, you didn't answer. I sent you a WhatsApp message, you didn't answer. And what I want to clarify with you is one of the things which will form a part of the discussion of this morning's program. Somebody, if you don't want your name called, without you having the opportunity to explain, just give me a buzz, man. You know we good like that. At least I think we good like that. But the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want.
Psalm 91. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler, and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder. The young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy.
Morning, neighbor. Morning again. Morning. Are you morning? I'm going to start the program differently this morning. But you know, sometimes it doesn't matter from which end of the cane you eat. You will eventually get to the other end. So this morning I'm going to take a different approach because I'm not going to get to the same end of the cane. Right? Yeah, I will get to the same end of the cane. I want to start by addressing some of the comments on this morning's program. Yeah. I see somebody say, I'll continue talking about Indians and see if they're going to support AP and UAFC in the next election. I don't know about others, but I've been saying for quite a while, I don't see myself as a politician. My beginning and end of it all is not votes from Indian, Portuguese, Chinese, or whoever. My struggle is for fairness and righteousness and decency and respect for all the people in this country. And if you have a problem with me addressing the misbehavior of an Indian-dominated government, and you believe that not voting for the political group that I support is in your best interest, fine by me. I don't have a problem with you on that. I don't have a problem with you on that. But I'm going to repeat. Many of the issues which we identify here are issues which have an impact on the life and livelihood of Indo-Guyanese. I have to take this call. Give me a minute. Morning, sir. How are you doing? Alright, cool. I sent you a message. You didn't respond to me yet. Okay. Alright, just separate your head from your body.
I'm a responsible meat man. Bacon. Which is why I was
like a tar. Black, I'm proud you have to know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, big up every black superstar. Black like a tar. Black, I'm proud you have to know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, you have to know who you are. Them say, when you say black bus, you fit turn back. Them say, nothing good never come out of black. Kick like us what? I say him too black. But my complexion, me say me know it couldn't black. I'm proud to be black. I'm a black to be proud. Marcus Garvey lead out 10 million black. I'm black to be proud. I'm proud to be black. So if you with me, won't you shout it out loud? Boy, black like a tar. Black, I'm proud you have to know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, big up every black superstar. Black like a tar. Black, I'm proud you have to know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, big up every black superstar. Some bleach out them skin and think them out the win. Some bleach out them skin until it get thin. Some bleach out them skin, see that them can't hear the king. Now from your bleach out your skin, boy, your sin. Boy, I'm a true Rasta man. Listen to songs that I sing. I'm a true Rasta man, and me Babylon can't trim. I'm a true Rasta man, smoking me herb doing me thing. So Babylon listen to the fire where they are fling. Boy, black like a tar. Black, I'm proud you have to know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, big up every black superstar. Black like a tar. Black and I'm proud you better know who you are. Black like a tar. Africa is the motherland, big up every black superstar. I'll never betray my brother. No, never. Malcolm X come and teach the masses. Yeah. He said you better know yourself, be yourself, never be another one. So,
Yes, welcome back. All I wanted to do is to clarify, because, you know, as David Hinds, Dr. David Hinds would say, I love y'all. I love my people, regardless of how y'all has behave. Some of y'all has want go on like crab in a barrel. Some of y'all has go on like the typical house slave. Some of y'all has play charandas. Some of y'all has some charandas in black skin. And so, before I throw you under the bus, I owe it to myself and to the black population to try to get to the bottom of issues before I ventilate them in a public way. Because here, I don't know about y'all, but I know how the media reports, and that includes social media, how the media report on matters could lead to death or life. It could lead to peace or war. Right? Ask Rwanda Teixeira, Gay Rwanda Teixeira. Good? When they, was it the hot season to, I don't, let me don't call the name. But when there were two tribes warring in Rwanda, those of you who are children of history, and even modern history, quite frankly, would remember that it was a reference to one tribe as cockroaches. Those cockroaches, along with other demeaning behavior and remarks and so on, that resulted in that bloodbath. I think the movie that captures it best might be Tears in the Sun, no? Or Tears of the Sun, something to that extent. But the media has a role to promote peace or violence. And so I usually see myself, I'm trained in communication, and so I see myself as a media operative, whether they like it or not. Social media, mainstream media, I'm a media operative. And so I take seriously what I do. And so I don't just run out there and put information and things. But I said I was going to take this morning's discussion from a different angle, because from regardless of which end of the cane you start, you are going to end up at the other end. Sometimes even if you start in the middle, you get to go to the other end. Just means that you got to choose two directions. So we're talking. Whoever this person is, I can't even remember who I was addressing. But talking about, y'all continue to talk about Indians, Indo-Guyanese, and see if you can get his support in the next election. Well, sometimes their support is not necessary, you know. It is one of the weaknesses of the major opposition political party, the PNC, which is predominantly black. They draw support from other ethnic groups. But like I like to say, social scientists look for the majority. And so just as when I address the PPP as predominantly Indian, I address the PNC as predominantly black. While the PNC is bold enough to come out and say at Babujan, this is a coolie people party. And the leadership of the PPP stood behind the person who uttered those sentiments and said, yeah, it's a coolie people party. They were bold enough to do that. Some of us just have to be bold enough to acknowledge that the PNC relies a whole lot, or even if you want to say the APNU, AFC, the coalition. If you want to say the coalition relies a whole lot on black people vote, then at least you will be starting at a positive. You're acknowledging the source of your existence, the reason for your existence. Because if your majority supporters are black people, then it follows naturally that for the greater part, you must be concerned about black people's interests. But like we usually say on this program, we're not saying blacks are better than anybody else. So while you're concerned about black people's interests and you're talking about black people's interests, somewhere in your heart there has to be a space to consider the well-being of others. And I am saying here this morning that if black people's interests are taken care of in this country, everybody's interests will be taken care of. We have seen it from the David Granger government. David Granger was not concerned merely about black people's interests. As a matter of fact, he started from the point of where the most need was, according to his argument. The most depressed people in this country, he argued, were the Amerindians. And so he was spending resources behind them. One thing I know for a fact in this country, and I'm calling it as it is, the PPP, depending on Indo-Guyanese votes only, cannot win an election in this country. The PNC, depending on black people votes only, cannot win an election in this country. Both of these groups have to turn in some way, shape, or form to the Amerindian population in this country to get a clear victory. The figures have shown that. And it might be truer of the PPP than it is of the PNC, because if we look at the migratory pattern and migration figures, don't worry this argument that a lot of people try to make and try to pull wool over your faces, that there are more Indo-Guyanese in this country than there are Afro-Guyanese. If you look at the patterns of migration, you are very well come to conclude that the Indian Guyanese population has been so reduced that there is a high possibility it is either equal to or less than the African Guyanese population. And let the statisticians come out and tell me that I'm wrong. And when they provide the statistics, I'll accept it. This is a census here, I think. So a census is going to be held. I remember the Bureau of Statistics advertising for workers. This is a census here. And it will be important to see the results of that census when it comes out. But if you were to look at history again, the PPP has a way of preventing the release of census information. They don't release the demographics. They might tell you about the income disparity or whatever, but generally they try to prevent you knowing of the ethnic breakup, the ethnic breakdown of this country. But those who have been paying attention will tell you that the largest block of people to be migrating from this country daily, weekly, monthly, yearly are Indo-Guyanese. And when Indo-Guyanese live here, they live here not one or two, you know, the entire family. Go quarantine and you're going to see how many empty buildings they got and so on. Check around this country. So whoever this early morning person is to tell us, keep talking about Indian people, Indo-Guyanese, and see if they're going to support you in the next election. It really doesn't bother me. Because they're not supporting you right now in the day-to-day struggles that are struggles to each and every single one of us citizens. Every single one of us are faced with high cost of living. Every single one of us. Whether the government giving you money under the table to help out your situation or not, you are faced with the high cost of living. Because the money that they're giving you under the table to help with your situation is money that could have otherwise gone to something else to improve your quality of life. So when they're giving you handouts to keep you temporarily comfortable, that's not the answer to the problem. The answer to the problem is overall good governance, so that everybody can be comfortable for the long term. Because I keep repeating it, and I'm going to repeat it again. There will come a time in this country, and I pray it doesn't come. But to the way things are looking, there will come a time in this country when those who don't have will look at those who have and take it from them. Right? I always remember a story, and I don't know if my good friend and village is listening. Lassie Baptist, we used to call it. Growing up, I grew up among a group of older guys. And in the time of shortages, one of the things you used to have to go to the village for is gas, cooking gas, kerosene, dependent on whichever gas station has it, you used to have to travel and go and get it. And I learned that this particular day, this young man from Buxton left and he went to Ogle gas station because he had to get a bottle of cooking gas. And he's standing there waiting for transportation. And an Indo-Guyanese male walked up to him, flashed a smile, exposing a set of goat teeth in his mouth, one slap in him, collect the gas bottle and keep moving. He dare not resist it. Right? That's a good demonstration of, oh, you got gas. I want gas. I don't have, I'm going to take it from you. And you could push your luck. And those who believe that they're comforted or comforted because they got access to gun and they got access to this and they got access to that. Just understand that desperation lead people to do desperate things. And the very thing which you tell yourself that you're relying on for your safety might turn around to be at your own peril. So instead of criticizing and cussing black people for discussing issues that are affecting them, which by extension are affecting the society, you might as well sit back and analyze and ask yourselves, how detrimental are these issues to the society? Because when riots and everything else break out, social disorder broke out, all of us will be exposed to the same dangers. And those who are exposing us to the dangers will have the benefit of the state apparatus to protect them. Will you who are here talking nonsense and supporting this wicked and vindictive and callous set of people who call themselves the government, be protected like them? Will you? Ask yourself that. In the 2000s, when things had gotten really crazy, they couldn't protect their own. Well, it's a technical argument / saw. He and his family suffered at the hands of the marauders, if I want to call them that. There's a different angle to that story, though. They themselves orchestrated his demise, as far as I know. I'm on a live program. Good morning. How might I help you? Quickly. I don't understand that. Yeah, well, I gave you the time also, right? Okay, that has to be after 10. Good. Listen, yeah, I don't have to wait me this morning. Yes. And so we have to understand this. This is not Indo-Guyanese versus Afro-Guyanese business, you know. Because the situation affects us most, we are up front there and talking about it. But it's a national situation, it's a national crisis. Apartheid is a national situation, it's a national crisis. And so the question to ask, are we really prepared to deal with the fallouts of an apartheid state? And if people really don't believe that Guyana is truly an apartheid state or becoming an apartheid state, we are going to discuss some issues which will point it out to you or make it clearer to you. But what are the negatives? What are the dangers of an apartheid state? We had apartheid South Africa, and we still have South Africa to look at. Like I said, those of us who grew up in the time of apartheid South Africa can help to educate those who are not even aware of what apartheid is, despite the fact that it might be staring them in their face. Apartness, segregation of people according to their ethnicity, granting or taking away of rights some people according to their ethnicity. Are we seeing that in this country? Are we? I will show you some examples just now. But I said I want to discuss the implications, the ramifications. Share the live. We haven't gotten to 1 million yet. I want 1 million persons by the time I get really into the meat of this matter. So keep sharing the live. If each of you share to 20, we're going to get there quickly. Right? Apartheid South Africa. There were some blacks who were used by the white racist regime. They were given privileges so that they in turn can do the biddings of the white racist regime. And so they had some privileged blacks who told themselves that the white racist regime was doing no wrong and could do no wrong, so long as they got their bowl of soup. Right? But what happened to them? They set themselves up for war with the majority of the blacks who were feeling the brunt of the divisive and destructive policies of the white racist regime. If you want to get an idea of what I'm talking about, go look at movies like Sarafina. Go look at Cry Freedom. Go look at those movies. Share the live. We want to get up to 1 million. Right? Those who were supportive of the white racist regime against their fellow blacks were in a direct path of confrontation, collision, with the blacks who were fighting for a freer, fairer, inclusive South Africa. And so the result was black on black violence. Black on black violence. But black people were clashing with each other. You hear me talk about the necklace ever so often? What was the necklace? When the majority blacks found out that you were being treasonous, traitorous to them, when you were undermining their struggle, they sought you out in the dark of night. 4 a.m. morning, they found you when you were at your weakest, and they dressed you in a necklace. What was the necklace? Go look at Sarafina. In one instance, I remember a motor vehicle tire was thrown around the man's neck, filled with gasoline and lit a fire. He was garlanded, perhaps. But what I'm painting for you is in an apartheid state, when people become so oppressed that they cannot stand it anymore, they turn to violence because it becomes a violent struggle. I don't think a violent struggle will benefit Guyanese. Whether Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, Portuguese, regardless of your ethnicity, I don't see how a violent struggle could benefit us. And so those of you who are here supporting this administration and their wickedness and their divisiveness, ask yourselves, is our blind support of these wicked and vindictive people, this criminal cabal, who for the greater part only has interest in themselves, their friends, family, and favorites, is our support of these people really in the best interest of this country and ourselves? Ask yourselves that. I said we are going to be drawing parallels. In countries across the world, we are seeing and we have seen over time where dictators set up confrontation between opposition elements and elements of the government supporters. And there are clashes in the streets. Government supporters warring against opposition supporters, and there's a bloodbath. And the members of government are sitting comfortably and living off the blood of the people. At the end, who suffers the most? The poor and downtrodden, the ordinary citizens. Because again, I'm saying, while these citizens are warring factions in the streets, those in government those supporting the government are provided with arms and ammunition and weapons of mass destruction to kill their fellow citizens so that those in government can remain comfortable. It is the ordinary rank and file citizens who are suffering. And when the casualty toll is taken, you don't find many of the leading politicians among them. But it is the leading politicians who are sucking the sweet out of the soil of the country. Ask yourselves, how does that benefit you? You get a pittance here, you get a pittance there. Is that what you want for Guyana? This blind support that you are supporting the PPP and the wickedness, that is a possible end result. Is that what you want for Guyana? And you don't see the parallel. Well, let me show you the parallel. When we call it their protest in Buxton, the PPP decided that we are going to confront them with their protest. We are going to Buxton too. And we are going to take our supporters by using the nation's resources through the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Culture. And we're going to hire buses and pay footballers, members of football clubs, $3,000 a head to join those buses and come to Buxton to show that we could put together a bigger crowd. And we are going to give our foot soldiers in Buxton money to go around and pay Buxtonians to not go to the protest, but instead to come to the ball ground where we have our parallel event. Yeah. In other territories, or if the leadership of the day of protest were different in their thinking, we could have had a confrontation. Because the protest could have been taken to the ball ground to confront the government representatives and those who they brought there. It could have ended in bloodshed. But wiser heads prevailed. In our Caribbean territories, we have seen clashes of opposition and government elements. You don't have to go too far. At the end of the day, people are bruised and battered, and people would have lost property, etc. During the election 2020, the standoff, bad settlement, and other West Berbice communities, they were developing situations between elements of the government and elements of the opposition. There were claims of African Guyanese youths running through Indo-Guyanese communities and brandishing cutlass and pelting houses, and there were claims of Indo-Guyanese going into African Guyanese communities and doing the same. Up until recently, there's an allegation that Jumbo Jet drove through African Guyanese communities in Berbice and was licking shots, as we like to say. Actions of provocation and setting up clashes between government supporters and opposition supporters. A divide and rule, an apartheid strategy. But at the end of the day, who will suffer the most? Ordinary rank and file citizens who are not necessarily enjoying the sweet of government, but they're ready to lay their lives down for them in government to continue to cream off the top of the nation's wealth and live life in Dubai and elsewhere. But you are coming on this program to tell people, continue to criticize the Indo-Guyanese for the support of the PPP and see if you are going to get their support in the next election. You heard me mention I was calling on 2 persons this morning to make contact with me because I need an explanation of something. Because in the same light of things, I see people are being set up for a clash. And this is again, like I explained in South Africa, black on black. Ordinary citizens and ordinary citizens. And it's the ordinary citizens who stand to lose the most. In this instance, black people who are allowing themselves to be used by this administration are setting themselves up for blows. And at the end of the day, the body counts is going to be black people. The coalition announced yesterday by way of flyer that it is hosting a rally at Golden Grove on the 3rd of September, 4:30 in the afternoon. No sooner that flyer came out, a few hours after, another flyer came out. It came out from a group affiliated to the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. And note I said to you before, it is that ministry where the same kind of operation that Ronald Gadraj was carrying on is taking place from now. Yes, Ronald Gadraj, as Minister of Home Affairs, was leading the dirty squad. The dirty squad is now led from within the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. And so there's a flyer out there now saying, look, on the same date and time that the coalition is going to have its rally in Golden Grove, we marching from Buxton to Golden Grove to celebrate some football victory. Well, let me say to you, in case you don't understand, why it is a dangerous setup. Because first and foremost, my understanding is the football competition, the victory that these people are talking about, the competition has not ended. And it will not end by Saturday, the 3rd of September. And so there's no justification for this march that they're talking about, except that they want to come into collision with people who are planning to be part of this rally in Golden Grove. And since, like I say, I always call it for what I said, since football in this country is predominantly a black thing, you're setting up, and supporters of the coalition are predominantly black, you're setting up black people to fight against black people. So let them get a clash, let tempers flare on the public road of Golden Grove, and let them black man kill one another, like in apartheid South Africa. I guess this is what the Indo-Guyanese want. I guess this is what the kind of behavior that they want to support from this Indian-dominated government. And so when we call it out, I will hear, we are racist. Right? But I'm calling it out so that my black brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts can recognize the dangers of this kind of situation and call their children, their charges aside and say, hey, let better sense prevail. Don't let them at Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture use you for $3,000 that can't bury you. Think about the trauma that will be left behind. Some of them are bold, you know. They're big and bold. Ooh, we gonna take over the road and we gonna march. And we ain't got no time with the opposition supporters because we got the government behind me and we got guns. And we got enough dirty girl. And we got for dead gun dead. And when a dead gun badly wounded. Is that what you want to support in your country? Huh? Those are the negatives of an apartheid state. But people are asking, or people are claiming, they're probably saying that you're creating racial hostility when you talk of Guyana as a impending or Guyana as an apartheid state. Well, let me give you the evidence. And it's nothing that you are not aware of. Many of you know that while the coalition was in office, all the lands it allocated, to all ethnicities in this country. But the lands allocated to black people, black businessmen, black public servants, those lands were targeted for reclamation. The PPP, the Indian-dominated PPP government, targeted those allottees. And where they couldn't succeed in taking back the land, up until now they're giving them hell to hold on to it because they have not accepted the remainder payment to conclude the transaction so that these black people could get title to their lands. That's a prime example. There are hundreds of allottees out there who would have paid a fraction of the agreement total to the Ministry of Housing, with the understanding that they will pay the balance over a particular period of time. Many of them are still being prevented from paying to complete that transaction so that they can get the title to their lands or ownership documents to the properties which they bought from the ministry. Because they're black. They're Indo-Guyanese who benefited from the same process under the coalition. And they have gone clear because their transactions were brought to closure and they were given their documents and they can now go ahead and live freely. If that is not apartheid, if that is not apartness, if that is not segregation and division and wickedness, what is? You know the ding-dong battle that the black businessmen who were allotted pieces of land along Mandela and so on had to fight. The likes of Care Enterprise, Brantford, I think his name is, the likes of Sivan's Waste Management. You know the hell that they had to go through. You know the immediate withdrawal or discontinuation of the contract of Lykin and replacement with an engine chap, some whatever gardens, funeral home, without him having the requisite experience nor skill set as Lykin. If that is not apartness, what is? Over at Wales, I'm told, when the coalition closed the Wales estate, they created an alternative livelihood program for those who were employed in the sugar estate over there. And so some of them became trained in skills and others were leased lands to do cash crop farming. Check in the media, you will find that many of them were singing the praises of the coalition government because they were now earning much, much more from their farms. And they were now in control of their own destiny. Lots of people were allocated lands. But what has this wicked and vindictive and apartheid type government done? Those lands which were allocated to black people, especially those who fell close to the road which was constructed. This government went on a campaign to take away those lands from them. People haven't been allocated their lands. Received their leases, 20-year leases. We're now being told by this wicked and vindictive apartheid type government to cease and desist. I have letters. Let me put my hand on one of them at least. Like I usually tell you, I don't talk with water in my mouth. Cease and desist. And if you don't believe that is apartheid, what is? This This is the deed of lease of land for agricultural purposes between NISIL and a particular person whom I shall not name. Whereas the lessee is the owner of the property described in Schedule 1, and whereas the lessee has expressed the desire to lease the said land for occupation and use by the lessee, and whereas the lessee has approved the grant of a lease of the land to the lessee, and whereas the lessee is willing and hereby grants a lease of the land to the lessee, who takes the same on the terms and conditions hereinafter stated. The lease of the land shall be for a term of 20 years, commencing from the date of execution hereof, unless terminated in accordance with Clause 7 or renewed in accordance with Clause 1C. Right? This was signed on the 23rd of March 2020 by NISIL. Right? In fact, this was a true and original copy issued on the 23rd of March 2020. So this is a valid lease, 20-year lease. If it starts in 2020, it's going to end in 2040. But guess what? As soon as this wicked and vindictive administration, this apartheid-type government, call it for what it will, have no fear of anybody. As soon as this apartheid-type government went into office, they started attacking the farmers there, the black folks who were granted lands. What they did, first they tried to get them to remove, cease and desist. Notice to quit. We represent the following persons who have been issued. No, this is the lawyer's letter. Let me get the exact notice to quit. Notice to quit from NISIL. Notice to quit. September 23rd, 2020. Notice to quit. After leases were granted. After leases were granted. In March. Caller. Is this who I think it is? All right, stay on the line for me. Good. Yes. Leases were granted in March for 20 years in September 2020. This is 1 month after this wicked and vindictive administration took over. They issued notice to quit. You are in occupation of a property situated at whatever, being portions of tract lettered, whatever, all being portions of plantation, Viceland, plantation, Wales, situated on the west bank of the Demerara, blah, 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 blah. Leased to you by NISIL, pursuant to deed of lease dated March 1, 2019. NISIL requires the premises for own use beginning from 1st day of October 2021 accordingly. NISIL by this letter pursuant to the without cause and without notice provisions contained in Clause 7 of the lease hereby terminates any tenancy, arrangement or otherwise that exists between it and you, and hereby gives you the required 12-month notice to vacate, quit and deliver up possession of the premises. This is not apartheid, what is? If this is not apartheid, what is? I can go on and on, but time is upon us. It's 19 past the 8 o'clock hour. I have someone on the line who wants to share their experiences with you from this apartheid government. Caller, you're live, go ahead. Caller, you're live, go ahead.
Okay, hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
Well, we'll call about this two facets. First, let me speak on the one of the voters list, which I think is of great concern to the country. Is that we might have some Indian brothers and sisters may be ready to vote, but they carry 4 names. My engagement over the years, based the history, speak to it. Whereby one person may carry, like say, Mary Singh, then Mary Prasad, then Mary, and then Prasad. those are key things that they think the biometric would pick up if we only have the in use to clear the list. Because there's a lot of skullduggery going on with respect to lists throughout the country. Even recently, I visited Mara and I was told basically that, as I mentioned earlier, that the blacks who die names are taken off the list, but the Indian names are not taken off. It's not only happening there, it's happening throughout the length and breadth of Guyana in terms of names. So that is one key player that you find that the PPP is using basically to get more votes when the time comes. So a person might maybe have more than one ID card. We don't know, but that may be because it consists of more than one name, right? So they gotta look the current opposition probably, or the government or the GCOM may have to look into that to see who's camping who or who cheating on who in terms of that voters list. Because over my work experience, I recognize that even some foreigners coming in now and getting ID from Venezuela, which I recognize right during my work, my normal chores of work that I engage in. So they are issuing ID cards to foreigners that I know that even spend the amount of time that I know these people, some of these people personally. But after I recognize it, I draw attention to certain people, and that's not right. So you got to look into that in terms of that. Now let me come back to what basically of great concern and which is economic problems to people that acquire leases at Wales and leases in other area and in large quantity do commercial business. We can't say that we want Guyana, and we can't say that the food prices are high, and then prevent farmers and prevent like stockholders from expanding or in bringing the actual business to fruition. You have people, the bridges are bad, which I indicated earlier. Right? Some bridges, the excavator some bridges was moved by excavator, which have art from the guard was done to NISIL. So NISIL is part and parcel of institutional apartheid or institutional discrimination against blacks. Not only blacks are affected only. Some Indians brought up parties that supported past governments are being affected. And affected a large tract of land, even the machine cannot get to their land. So if we talk about more food, then NISIL needs to do the common thing, rather than give some Indians, recall some leases to some Indians in Bell West, and some other in Friesland, another place you got to recall the island notice to quit. You got to recall the notice to quit and lease. Recall the notice to quit for everyone. If you do it for one Indian within the area with black side, you got to do it for everybody. So NISIL in actual fact engaged itself in discrimination economically. I would say that because I know person and I'm part of it, yes, Wheels. And NISIL engaged itself in that by not giving black a fair chance to promote the economic aspiration that they have and to implement the system that they have in previous government that they plan to do. And a failure of NISIL is depriving people's family from food and depriving the community and nation from developing in the long term. The NISIL needs to correct itself and be fair and equitable. If you give an Indian, we call it Indian notice of quit, you got to recall it black notice of quit altogether. Not because the court already recognized that the notice of quit that NISIL gives is flawed, and that NISIL needs to do the right thing and save the government money and recall all the notice of quit that thing, and that would be fair and in the common interest of all those that was issued lease of NISIL from NISIL by under the previous government. All right? Okay, that's what I have to say.
Thank you. So understand what is happening there. A mere month after this wicked and corrupt administration took office. A mere month. NISIL was instructed to put the people of the land because they were granted access to this land under the coalition government, and they are majority black people. And when the people refused to move, they started destroying the bridges. Some bridges were sabotaged, they were burnt. Others were removed by excavators. And so the people who were occupying these lands now have no access to them, despite the fact that they have produce on these lands. If that is not apartheid, y'all tell me what is. It's 25 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. The lines are open. The lines are open. Those who have ears to ears, let them hear. Those who have eyes to see, let them see. And if you're not intellectually lazy, then you will call it for what you see it as. And don't worry the likes of dead fowl. They don't bother me. They don't bother me. And those who have grown up in a time when you weren't exposed to apartheid South Africa, go read. I recommended some movies to you if you're a movie lover. Go look at movies like Cry Freedom, Sarafina Steve Biko. Go check them out. And then you would understand what apartheid is and what the dangers are. Caller Live, good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki, and all the listeners. Now, everything you spoke this morning is 100% on target. But let me just show you my bit. You see that Jack Dio? I tell you, God knows why he makes him a eunuch, that he can't have kids, or there is no woman in this world, despite all the wealth he has, who wants to be with him. Anyway, Jack Dio knew long beforehand that he had planned to make Guyana an apartheid state. And if we take the developments from the time they came in, he ensured that he armed the Indians' society up to the T. He gave license to 99% of the Indians, in fact, 99% of the owners of security services are Indians, quite off the bat. And the problem he had with that is that after he would have given them the license, Indians don't normally be security guards. They shy away from that kind of work. A few may be here and there. But upon realizing that in as much as he gave 99% of the ownership of security services to Indians, they still had the problem. So what he did afterwards, cunningly, they came up with this regional security crap that spans the entire landscape of Guyana. And who made up those security? Indians. So after he was caught napping with one of the plans, which wasn't far-reaching for him, he decided now, in an effort to arm them more, we're going to create this regional security forces, of which most are Indians, if not all. And that tells you, on certain terms, that this man knew what he was heading to. And that is to become a full-fledged apartheid state, where they have the guns, they have the resources, and they have black people lagging behind. That also explains why the police force is so politicized, the military the same thing, and cunningly, he made sure that the helm of the police force, those guys at the top, like Hickins and Blanham and Caesar and the whole 9 yards, they are rewarded handsomely off the books. We're not taking into account what they get annually, but they are getting paid on the table to do the biddings of this racist apartheid PPP administration. So when you look at the totality, you see this thing was carefully planned. Jack Dio knows what he was doing all along. He meant to stay in there until his fiber no longer exists. So when you are sleeping at night in your comfort, Jack Dio is carefully planning how to have the length and breadth of the 93,000 square mile wrapped up under the Indians. And black people will become the always wanting, never having enough. They will be the subservient ones. But we have something coming for Jagdeo and company. Kadaki, you have a wonderful day and God continue to bless you.
Thank you, caller. Voice note.
Good morning, Miss Amsterdam. There is only so much you can do for our people, African Guyanese. These, as I see it, they are prepared to sell themselves very cheap just to obtain a few coins or cash. And they are not seeing the bigger picture. They are not seeing their future. They're living for now. They look at things that can happen right now. And come the next day, they are back to square one. I don't know when we are going to wake up and smell the coffee and see that these people don't care about African Guyanese. And all they are doing, and they're getting them at the hem to do whatever once they point them something by the name of money. When will we people refuse these people handouts, these people little cash, petty cash that they give them to go and do terrible things to their own? When are we going to do that? When are we going to lift our heads above the sand? We are there just doing these things, feeling good about it. They are always never willing to come and stand up for whatever is right. They're always willing to go and listen to the madness. If Irfan Ali or whoever coming in the village or whatever it is, they're all ready to go and listen. And those people are God's giving them empty promises because they have no respect for them. And right now, black people accept disrespect. They love disrespect. The one James Bond, he was disrespected by the people so much. And what he's doing, trying to paint a proper picture, nice picture of them. We people accept disrespect. We love it. And they're going to disrespect them until they can't take it in this country, unless they decide to have a different mindset and look to the future and not just for today. Thank you.
Thank you for that voice note. Let me see if there's another. I think so. Lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. Remember the APNU, AFC and WPA has its rally on Saturday the 3rd of September at Golden Grove Market Street. Come out and support. Come out and hear about this apartheid state. Come out and hear about plans to struggle for a new voters list. Come out and let your numbers be counted.
Morning, Kidaki, morning, viewers. I got a message to the black people.
Not all the line.
Especially the youths. I continue to sleep late. I play, you know what? The coolie them go put you for smell them batty-hole and lick them batty-hole next. And you don't wake up from your slumber. Keep sleeping. Later, I gone.
Calling live, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Kadaki. Good morning, everyone in the diaspora. Everyone who just called this morning, I agree with everybody. I agree with everyone, because everyone has a right to express their sentiments that they are living under an apartheid state. I don't think we are becoming an apartheid state. I think we are properly in an apartheid state. The Cooperative Republic of Guyana has been existing as an apartheid state under the executive branch of the PPP administration. That is properly the case. And if we poll Facebook and look at the comments, we can see that what Coffee 250 is asserting has already been expressed by the people who comment every day on Facebook. Facebook is a real, tangible polling of the Guyanese diaspora and the people in Guyana who are feeling the atrocities and the brunt of apartheid system. It is very different from saying that we are becoming. We are not becoming any apartheid. We are an apartheid, and Coffee 250 needs to make that distinction. We cannot afford to approbate and then reprobate. We can't lay all of these facts and say the PPP is facilitating an apartheid state and then come and say we are becoming. The facts say that we are currently existing in. Then the argument and the narrative has to reflect what the facts have established. So, in my opinion, I think the narrative should be that Guyana is, and Coffee 250 should be saying that Guyana is properly and has been functioning as an apartheid state de jure by use of Guyanese constitution, because they've used the constitution to facilitate exclusion, apartness. That is use of the constitution to facilitate an apartheid state, as it was in South Africa, as was in Rhodesia, and as is currently in Guyana. As well as saying, in addition to a de jure facilitation of apartheid in Guyana, they're also doing it de facto by way of practice, either or both. Now, there are a lot of other important things that I could address, but I've got to address the youth between 15 years old and up, and around 25. Here's why 15 years old youth are important. Because in 3 years, a 15-year-old, who we may not think as important, he or she will be voting age by 2025. And if you us to properly cultivate our youth. Here is why most of us have a problem with the youth, because we're not cultivating them. And here is why most of us, we have a problem with ourselves, because our elders didn't properly cultivate majority of us. Since Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham, the president, left, the WRSM, the YSM, the militia, and National Service has all been dismantled. And Granger agreed to it. He was trying his best to rekindle that, because those things are essential. Now we left bare. And who allowed that? Jimmy Carter told them that we must get rid of these things because they tie us to communism and socialism. Well, 28 years later, here we are, left bare. So we have got to go back and do the things we should have done. How many of us have our children sitting down and listen to this program? How many of us, when we go up West Coast Berbice, we go quarantine, we go Wikanam, say, y'all don't listen to BUXTONIAN, man, show y'all must listen to that thing. Because if we are so interested in making the change, then we have to be conveyors of the message. We got to take the message. I also say that for as much as we love Jesus, I can respect that. But we need to spend as much as some equal time cultivating some revolutionary spirit, some sense of our African identity. We know more about Jesus. We never seen him. And we know less about our own African culture and our own African identity. Why is it that in the church we are taught to leave politics out of the church? but we say we are followers of Jesus. If we are followers of Jesus, don't we realize that Jesus came in the temple turning over tables against those in politics and high places and governance in high places? Jesus was a revolutionary for justice of the people. If we say that we follow Jesus, then by God, we must do as Jesus did. Jesus fought for justice of the people. That was Jesus' work. Jesus was a revolutionary. So I can't understand how pastors are saying, let's leave politics out of the church. Let's leave social issues out of the church. But the majority of people that got laid off by the thousands and are catching the most hell in Guyana are African Guyanese Christian people. How can we fight against the devil in the church, but when we come to work Monday morning, we don't fight against the PPP, racism, and apartheid that we are facing? What kind of God is that? So we have to understand that somebody, mainly the British under apprenticeship, told the preachers to tell the preachers we must teach the people religion, but we must learn to keep politics and religion separate. That is a great disadvantage. So I want to empower us, I want to encourage us. It's not Coffee saying this. When you read the Bible, you saw that Jesus' work was mostly about fighting injustice and fighting apartheid type systems in the scriptures. So what does that tell us? We have to put on the armament of Jesus and fight as Jesus fought. If we say we are followers of Jesus and he is the best example, then we must be that example on the streets, fighting the biggest devil in the Guyanese existence. It is the PPP. Once again, thank you for listening. Have a nice day.
Thank you for calling. Listening. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. Voice note.
Yeah, Kadaki, good morning. What the caller said just now there about drug deal, arming the Indians in this country, it is true. Everything he said, it is true. But then one needs to remember that the Caucasians were here and they had all the guns. And it take one brother Kofi with 10,000 slaves. And where are the Caucasians today with all the guns?
Voice note, the lines remain open. You tune to the Buxtonian Morning Time. It is now 8 hours 43, that is. And there was voice note I want to get for you. Call it live.
Yeah, good morning. My 2 cents is everything that Coffee said is so true. But coming to that rally at Victoria, that's the same thing that happened in Denham Step. When the leading Norton came here, but the only thing, they didn't get to bring the sports people in. Because when the house slave realized that the leader was coming, he tried to make contact with Bat Lion so that Bat Lion could have been at the community center where he knew that the villagers would have been congregating to listen to what the leader was going to tell us. And that is, well, the Bat Lion didn't come. But after the fight that they had with the villager, by the time we got there and to settle down, the police came and the whole thing just break up like they're going to the station. Now the other thing that I talk about is that we Africans are making ourselves second best to these good people. Because I would know people would say, oh, the blacks, and then they say the Hindus or the Indians. If you want to say blacks, you got to say Kuli. If you're saying Indians, you got to say Africans. We are second changing ourselves and demeaning ourselves to these people. And next thing, the last thing, is that Dr. Hinds was speaking. I had an up close and personal contact with Henry Jeffrey when he was one of the ministers attached to the PPP. And the way how he behaved to me when he learned of my political affiliation, it wasn't good. And I don't think that Henry Jeffrey could talk, at least to me, because I know him for what he was. And even under Glenn, now we must remember quite clearly that when, after the election in 2020, he was very much in collision with the PPP against President Granger. He wrote many demeaning articles in his newspaper about President Granger. He was vocal for Granger to be removed from politics because the PPP claimed to win the election. The only thing by Glenn Lal is totally against the PPP now and is trying to run contra against the PPP is because he has not been able to acquire any of the oil blocks. And when it comes to Henry Jeffrey, should the PPP try to say the APNU try to say that Henry Jeffrey is a good person? No. If you know the purpose of a spy, Henry Jeffrey, is the wooden horse of Troy with APNU AFC. And if APNU AFC allows Henry Jeffrey to get close up to them, like how he's trying to get close up to them, I know they are going to be sorry. Once a PPP is always a PPP. And when the Africans decide to cut up the PNC and the now APNU party for any other thing, you see what they turn out. WPA is a party, and don't matter what grievance WPA has with the former PNC or now APNU, I don't think WPA would ever join allegiance with the PPP, like how many people would run from APNU and join PPP. And when PPP get the goodness out of them, they kick them to the curb. Had it not been that Henry Jeffrey had more speed than Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps, he may have been another Saturday star in the PPP party. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your call. Let me point out that as far as I know, Henry Jeffrey was never PPP. Well, this is a technical argument. He was part of the Civic, right? But many of us argue that the Civic was never Civic, it was PPP. Or eventually the Civic became bought over and became fully PPP. But that's the issue there. But I like to refer to the Bible story where Paul get a box and become Saul, or Saul get a box and become Paul, and so on. Sometimes it takes one box for you to open up your mind and to become reformed. Right? I'm not saying that the APNU or AFC or PNC or whoever should welcome Henry Jeffrey into the leadership and so on with open arms. But that doesn't mean that the brother can't contribute to the fight against this apartheid government that we have. That's all I'm saying. Voice note continues.
Are they here? They had to leave all and run. So if Jack do think because he's going to arm all the Indian people with guns and we are going to be intimidated, that's like we can march through that. I don't know why the fuck black people is allowing.
Caller Live, good morning. Y'all listen, hold for me, caller. Y'all insist on using these expletives on my voice notes and so on. I will refuse to play yours after now. Caller Live.
Good morning, Kadaki.
Good morning
what
to
the
you.
lady said just now is so true. I applied for house land since in Cherry time. I have known when Henry Jeffrey was housing minister. You know what Henry Jeffrey said? When partner being there, I look for house lot. Now I look for house lot and he refused to give me house lot. Anyway, have a good day. I entrust Jeffrey. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Like I said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend or acquaintance. All right. I have a voice note here. I don't know if it is for the air or if it is for the... I want to play it cautious here. Caller live, good morning.
Morning, Kadaki, and morning, Guyana. When we look at the Indians, they are never going to admit what they have done. So we've got to start from there. And if they're never going to admit, we're not going to have a just Guyana. They continue to fleece the coffers of the state, and they're not going to admit that. When it comes to the Coffee 250, it is, in my opinion, they should have went along and not back down. Dr. Hinds think that, well, we have gotten the upper hand because we are now able to, much more publicize the event. But in doing that, it also shows that we were weak to back down. That's in my opinion. We have to understand, in reference to the apartheid system, we are there, and it's just like with a recession. We can be in a recession, but don't even think we are in a recession until the recession is over. So do the comparison. The PPP, racist party, is never going to admit to the wrongs they did. Hence, redress. When you're in there and you're trying to correct that, they're going to cry racism, and you're going to pull back because you don't want to appear that way. So, in my opinion, you've got to point out all the facts and proceed with the redress with all the stolen lands, all the stolen monies. And that's how we need to proceed. We've got to actually spell it out what we're going to do and do it. Because our fear, African fear, is always, we can't do this because of how it's going to look. A bunch of bull. Always just crying out and it's thinking we shall overcome and all of that bull. We need to do it now. We're always praying and waiting on white baby Jesus to help us. I mean, our mentality is all wrong. And as Coffee had said, we've got to cultivate the youths. So if we're not doing that, for the next 100 years, we're still going to be talking about getting a little pinch here and a pinch there, while the Indians get all of it. So please, my African brothers and sisters, get some sense. And we've got to put fear in the Indians because they have already put fear in us, and that's my take.
Thank you, caller. Voice note. I saw one voice note.
Kadaki, I'm not against Henry Jeffrey and coming and joining the PPP, the PNC, the coalition, in a matter of fact. Sam Hinds, he was a civic. Henry Jeffrey was a civic. The civic part of the ones that call themselves civic are PPP. Anyhow, nothing wrong in welcoming him into the party, but they should never make that mistake again to get them up in the top brass of the party, where they could get certain information. Because at the end of the day, we have to remember Charan Das. He left the PPP party, he came over and to the AFC, he was bad talking the PPP, and look what Charandas did to us. And now, after he did what he did, he's the High Commissioner to India. That is what the PPP does. Because they don't trust him to keep him very close under them. So they give him just a position for it. They give him his 30 pieces of silver. So they send him to India as the High Commissioner. Understand? Let us don't make that mistake again. Let us don't make. Once you leave the APNU party, wherever, and you go and join with the PPP, and when you realize you get yourself burned and you want to come back into the party, yes, we welcome you, but there should be a stipulation, a limit to those people. You don't get them too close, because remember, the PPP has a way of giving. They like to give them big money to do the dirty job, and when they turn around, when they do it, they turn around and give them a little 30 pieces of silver, and they're all right.
We just live, pay our rent, pay our bills, and that's it. And do our overtime to get our extra money. Kadaki, you guys just live, pay our rent, pay our bills, and that's it. It's real. It's real. It's real. And do our overtime to get our extra money. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. It's a sad situation, but.
Thank you, caller.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you. Caller Live, good morning.
Yes, good morning to all my black brothers and sisters over there and coalition members and leaders. Let me say this to Mr. Coffee. Thank you very much for your words of God today. Sometimes we need the word of God in our program. And let us give Mr. That guy a chance. If he want to join the avenue, let me give him a chance. He will be representing the word of God to the prodigal son. And if Glory Joe was PNC and he leave PNC and go to PPP and Jack Dio accept him and he become prime minister, so why we can't do for our black brothers? If we claim that we are black brothers and we love each other, we have to give each other a chance. He went outside and he get his own experience. It's not wrong joining the coalition. That is politics. He knows politics. He could speak after experience now. And Mr. Coffee is right to call out the church, call out the ministers, them. They have to remember they got to be part of the fight for freedom. Because they must remember those who send them kids to America to study and to have the good life, or if they went to America, is a churchman. Make the way for them to go to America. Martin Luther King, he was in church, he was a churchman. But he said enough is enough, and he have to represent his people, them who is punished. Black people was punishing and still punishing in America. And Martin Luther King fight the battle, and he won the battle. So all the ministers, yeah, should get up and help fight with the coalition leaders, them. That is my thing for today. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. It's now 3 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. It's time for us to take a wrap. Okay, there's no unplayed voice note, and so I can take my leave of you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for staying woke. Spread the word. Be rallying on the 3rd of September at Golden Grove Market Square. Right, as they like to say, come on, hell or high water. They ain't gonna stop this rally. Be rallying. Have a good day. Stay safe, and join me tomorrow for another program of BUXTONIAN Morning Time. Certainly, Dr. Hinds is going to be on this evening with Politics 101. Right? Goodbye.